very similar start, so plenty of bright skies out there, but perhaps a little bit chilly first thing. We'll also see some cloud just filtering in further across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps some fair weather cloud across East Anglia. And we'll see a bit more cloud on Wednesday as well for many of us before that clears. Otherwise, plenty of sunshine and turning warmer as we go Thursday and Friday.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out about Brexit finally paying off as Trump gives Britain easier tariffs than Europe. What are Remainers going to moan about now? And an African NHS nurse was called the N-word by a convicted male paedophile she was treating. Guess who got in trouble? The nurse did, because she called him Mr. And is it the end of the road for net zero? Starmer is relaxing the rules in a desperate attempt to keep the economy going. I guess he'd rather save his political skin than save the planet. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight I'm joined by Kerry Marks and Simon Evans to take you through Monday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Our top stories. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is facing cross-party criticism for saying she's not surprised by Israel's decision to deport 2 Labour MPs. Abdesam Mohammed, who represents Sheffield Central, and Yuan Yang, the MP for Early and Woodley, were deported after being accused of planning to spread anti-Israel hatred. Well, Ms Badenoch says Israel has a right to control its borders, adding she thinks it's shocking Labour has MPs that other countries don't want to allow in. Well, the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has responded. He says her comments were disgraceful. The leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey, says Ms Badenoch has shown unbelievably poor judgment. Well, Lammy has also described Israel's decision as unacceptable. In a joint statement, Ms Yang and Ms Mohammed have said they were astounded at the unprecedented step taken by the Israeli authorities. Sir Keir Starmer has reiterated his disappointment over Donald Trump's new tariffs in further calls with world leaders. The Prime Minister has this evening spoken with his Canadian counterpart, Mark Carney. Downing Street says they discussed working together to maintain global economic stability in the wake of Donald Trump's tariffs, and they agreed on the importance of free and open trade between like-minded nations. These pictures of when the pair met last month. Well, earlier, the Prime Minister spoke to the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, and the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, as countries around the world consider how they will respond to the new economic environment. Downing Street says they all agreed that, as with defence and security, it is a new era for the global economy. A father and his 10-year-old daughter have been named as the two victims of a fire at a caravan site near Skegness. 48-year-old Lee Baker and his 10-year-old daughter Esme from the Nottingham area died after a fire broke out at Golden Beach Holiday Park in Ingomells in the early hours of Saturday morning. And the family say they are utterly devastated. Marine Le Pen's told a rally of her supporters in Paris her criminal conviction for embezzlement was a political decision rather than a legal one. The leader of the right-wing National Rally has been barred from running for office for the next 5 years. It's ruled her out of a presidential election she was tipped to win in 2027. Well, she was convicted last week of siphoning off EU Parliament funds to pay her party. Centre and left-wing groups held counter-protests in Paris. Now, they were demonstrating not only against Ms Le Pen, but also in support of the law being enforced, in support of the judges who made the decision, who have since been subjected to death threats and now require police protection. And a rugby match in France was delayed when a parachutist got caught on the roof of the stadium earlier. It happened ahead of the Champions Cup game between Toulouse and Sale. The parachutist was left dangling for almost half an hour as fans were cleared from the area and workers placed a protective inflatable decoration beneath him. Firefighters eventually made their way up on a mechanised ladder to collect the man in a basket he had been due to deliver the match ball. Toulouse ended up winning the match 38-15. That's it from me. More to come as we go through the evening here on GB News.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron, and hello and welcome to Headliners, where we give you the best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, let's see what the papers have in store for us in today's show. The Telegraph leads with door-to-door NHS to tackle health crisis. The Independent leads with every 2 minutes, a pregnant woman dies, yet Britain and the US are cutting millions from global aid. The Eye has Build British, Starmer to ease petrol car ban in race to shield UK from trade war. The Guardian has Labour will support key industries hit by tariffs. The Metro has Musk's Trump tariff revolt. Elon Musk has spoken out against the tariffs. And the Daily Star leads with Easter sunny. We're going to have some nice weather. So, how are you both doing, by the way?
Wonderful, wonderful. We have wonderful news to talk about.
Yeah, we
lots
do.
of wonderful things happening.
There's
also lots of depressing things happening.
Let's start with Monday's Times, Kerry.
OK, well, it's actually not that wonderful at all. I don't know why I said that. That was misleading. Well, there's lots of heavy stories. There's also Carol Midgley, can anyone get my dog to behave? No, the dog doesn't like you. Get rid of it. Burn it.
Well, don't worry, the way the economy's going, you'll be eating it soon.
Absolutely. There's a story that we might get to in a moment, but the smaller stories, hackers have been... there's lots of hacking going on, pro-Palestinian and Russian groups, and of course we had the Hezbollah cell discovered recently in the UK, and we have the Muslim Brotherhood in the UK as well. So that's
great bunch of lads.
Hardly surprising. We've got our own country working against us. Knife crime penalties. Bear Grylls is stepping in onto the water debate to say that our tap water is rubbish. I don't know whether Bear Grylls is a particular expert.
Well, the people who make the tap water have actually hit back against that and said that the tap water is great. So
did they say great, or did they say it's okay? Really,
it's not that bad. I've seen Bear Grylls literally drink camel semen siphoned through a sock.
That's what I was thinking.
I don't think he's the person. Really, he's probably just saying, well, this doesn't have enough animal protein in it.
There would be a lot lower levels of estrogen in camel semen than there is in London tap water.
Maybe it's turning him into a more effeminate man.
Yeah, he's just annoyed it's not on tap for him. He's just got to go through so much effort for it. And then we have Le Pen who fights on, and you know, okay, she's saying what's happened with the courts is political, which of course it is. At the same time, she did commit the crime. At the same time, it's actually quite a common crime in French politics. Others have done it.
This is the thing. Everybody in France does stuff like this. It's France. You know what I mean? They're not.
Well, it's also
they don't stick to the rules like we do, Simon.
The rules on funding is very complex, and I think that none of them have got much money
for a French person who's asleep half the day to understand the rules and stick to them.
Yeah, it does. I mean, without getting totally into the weeds of it, I think it is it's seen in the context of the wider the escalation of lawfare as a political tool. Obviously, we've seen it in America recently. It's very hard not to suspect it, isn't it, at this point? And obviously, those who were subject to it in America have come out very strongly to back her. So,
it didn't exactly work with Donald Trump when they came after him.
A huge call, a huge risk, because if she manages to shake it off, or indeed just appoint a successor who will, come through.
It's not a new thing, is it, the lawfare, but it's still... it backfires. People just stop trusting the law after a while. Yeah. At the same time, though, I'd say it's a bit hyperbolic of her to compare herself to Martin Luther King over this, but...
Well, yeah, she's never cheated on her spouse, so... but, I mean, I think...
Je me rêve.
I think it really damages trust in Western democracy.
Yes, totally.
Across Europe, across the West, we're seeing supposedly democratic nations and democratic establishments turning around and doing things like this that are not far away from what Putin would do.
We wouldn't have heard about the one in Romania if it hadn't been for Vance mentioning that in Munich, would we? They overthrew an election. Yes. And obviously the attempts to eliminate the AfD at the moment. So, I think there is an awful lot. We feel like an awful lot of cycles, maybe concentric, or some of them are larger than others. The end of globalisation, the end of the New World Order, the end of the post-war era. Some say it's been over for decades. I don't know. An awful lot of things are. As somebody else said, I think it was possibly you about tariffs, that they only come around every 100 years because you need everyone to have been dead who remembers them from last time. But there's a lot of that sort of stuff happening at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's this story here as well, splits over war in Gaza and national security risk. So apparently Gaza might be isolating and inflaming a new generation of Islamists.
It's the Muslim community. I don't know whether it's Muslims on an individual basis, but who don't feel the words genocide, apartheid and colonialism are being screamed quite enough and get rid of the Jews. But you know what? I mean, I'd understand it a lot more if, and I don't mean this against individual Muslims, but if the Muslim community were speaking out more on behalf of the Kurds, the Druze, Yazidis, the Christians, the unfortunately named Balokis,
you certainly Lewis
the Zoroastrians,
the Picts, the Jutes.
Well, I've said that what's going on across the whole of the Middle East is extreme violence. If you speak out against it, you genuinely lose your head.
Yeah.
So, and minorities are being completely diminished to the point where something like 80-90% of Christians have vanished from Syria in just the last decade.
Yeah.
So, why? I would like to see that coming from the community as well.
There's never much diversity in Middle Eastern Islamist countries.
Not with power. There is diversity, not with power, though.
Moving on to the Daily Telegraph, Simon, what have they got in there?
So you don't want to cover the green rules on the
Oh, yeah, we cover it in another paper.
Well, the Daily Telegraph have an extraordinary story that the NHS is going to tackle the health crisis by having door-to-door house calls, and by the sound of it, not even necessarily asked for. So, never mind the fact that you can't get a GP appointment this side of the next total eclipse of the sun.
This is going to be so convenient. I mean, a receptionist can come around and be rude to me right on my doorstep.
They will somehow anticipate those people who are likely to have needed a GP, and they will nip it in the bud, possibly quite literally.
I've come to test your prostate. Oh, thank you. Do come in.
Extraordinary. An army
use the back door.
An army of health workers will be sent door to door in a radical NHS scheme to tackle Britain's sickness crisis. Absolutely absurd. I have no. I can't. You run out of ways of expressing bafflement and bemusement, don't you? Just quite early on in the evening, but I mean, this is just barking mad. Just create the opportunity for people who know they're ill to go and see a doctor. That would be a start. Once you've got that sorted, then start possibly thinking about making a sort of random interventory. I have no idea what they can possibly be thinking. I do like Dr. Connie Jungens Minton, though, as a great name, who is leading the first scheme in Pimlico. She said that the approach could make better use of taxpayers' money. I am at a loss to understand how it might possibly work, given that nothing else in the NHS does, introducing a new service of this kind. I mean, this is the sort of thing people are accused of being absurdly nostalgic for, isn't it? I do remember when GPs made house calls, just about. I think I was about 6, and one came to look at my measles. Right. And that was about the last time one came to our house, you know. But I remember that used to be a thing. I mean, if they are capable of bringing it back, but it's going to be a long way for the GPs to fly back over from New Zealand, isn't it?
A few decades ago, we didn't have, people didn't tend to own cars, whereas now.
We also had more village life, didn't we? We had the local Bobby. We had the doctor would come around and visit and so on, and knew the whole family. Everyone had a bank manager who they knew and knew you by name. So we're too big.
You're thinking of Terry and June, I think. This never really happened in real life.
No, I remember this.
No, it possibly did.
It was real.
I am in favour, of certain kinds of preventative medicine, making people aware of what to look out for. I don't think that hurts.
That's why we've got the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last 3 times I've been to the doctor, they Google the symptoms right there in front of you. It's utterly shameless. It's also... and then you have to help them get online. You need to click on that.
You shouldn't Google it. We Google it.
I find Grok is better than ChatGPT, but you can.
It's also, are they going to just knock on your door, or are they going to make an appointment with us? We're like, actually, we're not free that day.
I am just going to mention...
They've got to phone us between 7 and 7:01.
And I'll be like to speak to my secretary. He's going to block you.
Leslie Manville and John Lithgow are pictured on the front there. They've won Olivier Awards, which is rather lovely, for London Theatre. Great. Which I try and champion, and their plays are Giant and Oedipus, which sound quite sort of classic, so that's good.
And John Lithgow has been the same age for, I'm not joking, years. It's incredible.
He's hovering there, isn't he, now? I like the way he wears that old-fashioned sort of hair thing. It's not quite a comb-over, but he's got that sort of cockatoo tuft. You don't see enough of those anymore these days.
OK, we'll look at more front pages in a moment, but let's have a look at some other important stories inside the papers. The Guardian now, and have Labour been inspired by Elon Musk? They're planning to slash the government. Afuera, Kerry.
They are.
Hundreds of quangos.
It's about all the quangos that we're getting rid of, which is good because the word's awful, quango. Who wants one? Quangos just lack direct accountability. Let's just get rid of them. They're awful. And we saw it recently with the Sentencing Council, and when they wanted to bring in a kind of sentencing which would favour ethnic backgrounds and so on. But what was interesting about it was how hard it was to get them to change their mind. It was with the government threatening to sue them, and it ended up pleading, like, please don't do this, please.
Passing emergency laws.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully on board with the idea
of
a
part of quasi do you not understand?
Exactly. Well, part's going wrong. I mean, if they're advisory, the NHS England as well, good, let's get rid of it. If their point is to give us skilled advice, which will add to decisions made by the government, then fine. But they have power over the government.
No, it never was.
It's a lie. It wasn't, but I mean, the theory would work.
And these organisations allocate a lot of money, £353 billion of public money. That's an insane insane amount of money.
You've been quangoed. That's all to all of them.
They were all developed. I mean, the huge rush that came through with Blair. It's been analysed by Curtis Yarvin as part of the cathedral, the sort of outriders, the superficially exterior bodies which lend moral weight to the. You ask this body to come up with things the government wants to do anyway, but then it can go, oh yeah, the Rowntree Foundation says there's too much racism in public schools, so we're going to have to close them down, and it just gives them this kind of, you know, as I say, a kind of superficial sense that an independent authority has made findings rather than a government has got ideology.
Like a staged election giving legitimacy.
Yeah, absolutely. So get rid of all of them. But to be fair to Starmer, I am surprised he's coming for them. I mean, I would have thought he was a quango man. I guess they just cannot afford them, of course. This is, you know, increasingly you get the feeling the government have realised quite how bust they are.
Yeah, I think it's just the necessity of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the public sector has just exploded, so now it needs to be slashed back. And let's squeeze this one in. We've got the Telegraph now with David Lammy upset that Israel is exercising border control. I'm amazed he knows what border control is.
Yes, well, that's pretty much what Kemi Badenoch said, wasn't it? I think, yes. This is Lammy attacks Badenoch for cheerleading after Israel bans 2 Labour MPs. And we heard there on the news report that apparently she's facing cross-party censure over these remarks. I mean, she's come out quite strongly in favour of Israel being allowed to chuck out British MPs. I don't suppose it is a great precedent. I'm not entirely in favour of our MPs being turfed out like, you know, common louts out of a time or something.
I love it.
I think you've had enough, Mr Mohammed. You know?
What if we could throw our MPs out of Britain?
Yes, that would be nice. I mean, the fear is, I mean, obviously Israel are saying that that they have been spreading malicious anti-Israel propaganda, and there are, it seems, you know, quite a few MPs within the Labour caucus now whose main priority seems to be attacking Israel over Gaza, demanding a new airport be installed in northern western Pakistan, and you know, the various other sort of Islamic concerns, basically, sectarian, you know, politicians. On the other hand, you know, as Lammy has said, well, you know, you didn't like it when Conservative MPs are thrown out of China, and she's like, well, they're not an ally, and he's like, and she's like, you know, it goes back and forth.
They didn't go to China to undermine China. They went there to... and if we have politicians go to another country, even if they support one party or another in another country, that's not the same as trying to defame the country itself. Secondly, we have done it. You know, Geert Wilders was banned when he first came here.
Yes.
That was for a couple of years and so on. And we have banned plenty of other people that don't fit with the politics of the country. But it's also the whole thing, their angle is all about the arms sales and so on, which they want to stop. We sell far more arms to Qatar, to Saudi, to the US and so on.
I mean, I would add on that point, can I just say, I would add on that point, although they didn't ban him, there were calls to refuse Donald Trump, you know, a state visit, and Sadiq Khan was quite happy to float a dirigible with him wearing a nappy. I mean, an absurd insult to somebody who really matters. You know?
Absolutely. Well, after the break, we'll see what's on the front page of tomorrow's Mail and also find out how you can get a new car by doing nothing. In fact, you can only get it if you do nothing. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Claro uses seasonal produce for lunch and dinner. It's committed to contemporary Mediterranean food with Middle Eastern influences, aiming to mirror its sister restaurant in Tel Aviv. Chef Shadi Isawi leads the venture, and he joins me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, here we have what we call our lamb tray in the restaurant. It's one of the signature dishes that we have in Tel Aviv, running for almost 8 or 9 years. It's actually 2 to 3 lamb necks that are tied together and braised with our own mix of spices for about 4 to 5 hours in the oven.
Ooh, slow cooked.
So
and you've told me
tender,
that because of its tenderness, I'm just going to be able to break off pieces here.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you're right, you know. Beautiful, beautiful lamb. So you, in your restaurant, and indeed in Tel Aviv, you would fill the table with food.
Yes.
And everyone, all the friends together, would fall upon the food. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes. We really like to share food together. We really like to put the food in the center of the table, and then everybody is around it. Everybody is sharing. So you have your tzatziki, which is from Greece. You have your matbucha, which is from North Africa. You have your lamb, which has the Middle Eastern spices in it, and let's say the European way of cooking it. You have the pickles, which are extremely Middle Eastern, especially the way we pickle them. Well, you have the fattiness of the lamb, you have the freshness of the leaves, you have the dairy of the tzatziki, a little bit of spiciness from the matbucha, a little bit of sourness and tanginess from the pickles. So it all fits together in one bite. Yes, and we do like to use our hands.
This is really, really delicious.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay for some of your comments. John Britton says the Labour MP's duty is to their respective constituents, not the people of Gaza. Quite right. And Andy Davies says our GP always did house visits to see my old granny. Good old Dr. Shipman. Andy, that's a very naughty thing to say. Now, a couple more front pages. Kerry, what have the eye got in it?
OK, we're being threatened with binge strikes, Birmingham style, which makes it sound like a real sort of mob threat, doesn't it? We're going to get you Birmingham style, which, of course, they've got a big backlog of waste in Birmingham, which they just throw it in the rivers like the water companies do. So, yeah, that's coming here. And the main story is Build British, Starmer to ease petrol car ban in race to shield UK from trade war, which is partly about the trade war, but also the move to slowly move away from net zero, which I think we're seeing the beginning of the beginning of the end of net zero down to policy zero. So he's reducing the tax on non-compliant cars by a tad. I'm not sure it's going to make a lot of difference at this point. And
the actual amounts are, I mean, the way the headline looks, it looks like, you know, it's going to be plain sailing. We're going to be back to revving our V8s, but no, it's going from 15,000 to 12,000. So there's still going to be a huge tax, and it's weird that the market is being forced like this, Simon. They've still got a target, or under existing rules, the target is to reach 100% electric cars in 2035.
Yeah, it's very difficult to know exactly what the plans are, because they're constantly tweaking and adjusting them, because they're nonsense, because they're rubbish, because they're entirely unachievable and counterproductive, and because they're trying to kill the industry and the potential of Britain to survive the end of the decade at all at this point. But yes, it does look as if they're concentrating on saving the luxury brands, which, I mean, if you wanted to add just one more ingredient to the simmering resentment about net zero, the possibility that, you know, people who can afford an Aston Martin will be getting off without being paid the tax, but anyone who just wanted to get a proper petrol, you know, family saloon or commuting car, is going to have to... and we live in Brighton. I think you covered the story about us trying to get a charging point and a driveway installed in our house in order to be able to run an electric car. I doubt there's one charging point per 100 homes in Brighton, and I don't think we're unusual, and there is no way they're going to be anywhere near delivering that at this point, you know, so it's got to be hybrids at the very least. And then, so they're saying like Aston Martin and McLaren, who make about 8 cars a year, I think. You know, it's like absurd. Keir Starmer, to be fair, has recognised that the world is changing dramatically. I mean, his rhetoric has recognised that. Whether his policies are able to adapt to it remains to be seen. But, as you say, going from 15 grand to 12 grand, and there's massive carbon offset possibilities. I confidently predict, but I would be surprised if any of these policies survive the next 5 years.
Yep, me too. And moving on to the Daily Mail, Simon.
Oh, OK, let's wait. The 9 out of 10 GPs call for NHS prostate screening screening programme. Now, as a prostate owner, as the BBC call me, I am quite keen that people should get their prostates. It's one of those. I think most people understand that prostate cancer is a thing that a lot of men die with rather than from. But still, it's good to be aware if it's causing you jip. And as I am somebody who will, in about a month's time, emerge from their 50s, known as Sniper's Alley, you know, I've seen a couple of mates go under one way or another in the last 10 years, and statistically, it is quite good to get things spotted early on. I don't know whether prostate is necessarily the most urgent one to get sorted, or whether it feels like low-hanging fruit, if you'll excuse the...
It's the size of a grapefruit.
But, I mean, once it's low-hanging fruit, you can be fairly certain it's...
If he's checking it with his foot, then...
I did have a biopsy myself a couple of years ago, and everything was fine, but they give you a little warning afterwards not to be alarmed when the next few emissions from the end of your urethra are tainted by blood flow.
Right.
And I forgot, and it is the most terrifying thing imaginable.
I'm all for prostate screening. I'll let anyone check my prostate, to be honest. And, but I wonder whether this is partly to do with this being highlighted to do with the king and his mystery cancer that he had. That we're now seeing it highlighted.
Was it not skin?
I think the rumour was otherwise, but it was never announced.
It was. The rumour was
an actual.
No, the rumour was that it was prostate, and that was specifically denied. I think.
Right.
Why would you deny that one?
I don't know.
That's a very odd one to deny. I think that would be the cover story, really, wouldn't it? If
considered
anything,
important for the royal kind of regal, authority and charisma. You don't want to fish a king, do you?
And apparently they can check it by a blood test or something, so it's not always done with
PUAs, I think,
Right.
I think they're called, that's right. Well, they look for little bodies and then that can tell you whether it's swollen and diseased generally, I think,
Okay, good stuff. Well, let's have a look inside the papers. We've got the Telegraph, and 5 years after COVID, people are still being prosecuted for things that Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson were probably also doing, Simon.
Oh, I'm doing this one, am I? Sorry, yes, OK. This is the COVID criminals dragged through the courts 5 years later. And these are a series of distressing stories about people who, to be honest, of course, ignorance of the law and so on is generally no defence, but the rules were changing so dramatically, so quickly at that time, it was impossible to keep up. These are people who found themselves stuck on holiday for 3 months when they managed to get home, failed to do the right PCR test and booked a 5 PCR test when they were supposed to get an 8 PCR. I mean, it's just absurd. I have said for a long time, in fact, I said I think by the end of 23 there should be an amnesty on anything. Whether you hosted 8 people in your back garden, whether you were caught, taking your dog for a second walk that day, whatever absurd restriction, that would have taken a lot of the pressure off all the ridiculous amount of hot air that was wasted over a cup of warm Chardonnay to celebrate Boris's birthday. Well, the whole thing's been humiliating.
These are cases that were appealed, so that's why they've dragged through to this point. But it looks like, I can't believe they haven't been thrown out already. Some of them are so ridiculous.
Some of them are particularly petty, aren't they? And it's like a guy who had done the COVID test, and then on the way back to the UK, his phone ran out of battery. So he arrived and said, "It's there. If you let me plug my phone in, I can show you I've got the certificate." And they said instantly, "No, you're going to get done for this," which is just insane. And
that's
and
public sector workers for you.
Yeah, exactly. But it's particularly hypocritical with since we found out about all the ministerial partying and so on gets silly. And if we had any guts, we'd really be going after China and getting reparations from them.
Absolutely, a couple of trillion, that would rebalance. Take the sting out of the tariffs.
Absolutely. OK, well, after the break, we'll be giving The Guardian the once-over, and we've got the nurse suspended for calling a male paedophile Mister. This is Headliners, only on GB News. See you in a minute.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
situation,
No,
isn't it?
because
the failure is
you're
the failure is
deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay for a couple of your comments. Lynn Dixon says Mad Max days are coming soon. Yes, that's something we're all looking forward to. I'm stocking up on big spiky balls on the end of chains. And there's another comment. Jackie Briggs says, can the producer leave the mic live without telling them? I would love to hear what they all say during the break. I think for the sake of our jobs, we would rather that didn't happen. Let's have a look at some more front pages. We've got The Guardian, Kiri.
OK, well, main one is Labour will support key industries hit by tariffs. I'm not sure whether that's the main one, because it's the big story we're talking about everywhere is that Labour's going to compensate companies that are being hit by tariffs, which is a lot of them. We're in a right panic over tariffs, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know whether it's going to be all industries attacked or affected by tariffs like we are. We're talking about it non-stop, and it's getting quite annoying, really. I'd rather us not be.
Have we
Maybe
dropped
should
the
get some
one
money,
about...
but-
We had a story about tariffs and about whether they're a Brexit dividend. Has that disappeared?
That's disappeared, but we talk about it now.
Because I was quite interested in that. I mean, there's obviously people are asking, is it good because we're out of the EU?
Yeah.
And so the EU is getting hit by a reciprocal tariff that's harder than ours, and we're only getting hit by 10%.
Yeah.
And then I looked at this chart. I mean, you've probably seen it. There's a famous picture of Trump holding up a table with the tariffs that American imports are charged, and then the reciprocal tariffs. Almost all of them, America is only charging back around 50%. That's the typical one, whereas Britain charges 10% and is going to be charged 10%. So although we're enjoying a degree of free trade with America, our reciprocal level is actually very much...
But I saw... That's why
they're not actually
I thought as well.
tariffs,
I saw an economist explain that actually we don't charge those tariffs. There's,
this is
there's certain things that, WTO rules, they take into account, currency manipulations, government subsidies and things like that. So it gets a lot more complicated.
It's a lot more complicated,
And Trump has calculated a lot of them just on the basis of the sort of imbalance of trade, which is a nonsense, because obviously we're going to buy a lot of bananas from an island that grows bananas and might not, sell so much stuff back to it. But we're not going to grow our own bananas in Scotland.
No, they weren't calculated by any logical process, and it was largely trade deficits. But also they couldn't have come out with such even numbers. Do you know what I mean? Clearly, every country is charging 20%, 10%, and so on. It's nuts. But we could benefit from this massively. And I think, actually, it's one thing Starmer's probably right doing at the moment is sort of sitting back on it. And we're hearing from the French who want another coalition of the willing, the same as with fighting Ukraine. Everything's coalitions of the willing now. And I'm not sure we should really be cozying up to France either right now. We should just sit back, see what's going to happen with this. He might take some of these back. And also because if our tech tax, which is a major play.
Yeah.
A major play, because largely the tech tax is taxing America. That's where we get all our tech from. So we have that card, and we have a few other cards we can play to keep our tariffs low.
We could be the Singapore of Europe. It would be amazing. With the Northern Ireland backstop, surely we can get EU goods through there and then flog them to America.
That was always the plan of Brexit. That was the scenario foreseen, wasn't it? Singapore on Thames, that was supposed to be. I have noticed, a few other countries, Zimbabwe has dropped all its tariffs to America now in a goodwill gesture.
Well, that's interesting, though. But a lot of countries now want us to, because they're being tariffed high, they want us to join with them and team up, which is probably not the best thing to be doing. And there's lots of little things that could be happening right now. We might see a major trade drop going from China, which isn't necessarily good for us. They're going to get rid of loads of stuff because of the tariffs with America. But then if we start buying the really cheap Chinese stuff, that's going to affect our industry as well.
Yeah.
We'll end up tariffing it.
And also, all our stuff is going to get a bit worse.
Well, I have genuinely wondered whether my life might not be actually improved if cheap plastic Chinese crap was no longer readily available to me at 1:30 in the morning. I really think I might be quids in.
It's a bad hobby of yours.
If 8 stainless steel hip flask funnels don't arrive in 3 days' time, what the hell does that think?
OK, well, let's move on and look at the cover of The Express, Simon.
Yes, this is a slightly more heartwarming, but let's be honest, really quite small story, which the Daily Express is elevating well beyond its real impact. Our heroes will get help to pay respects to fallen comrades. There is an image there of a veteran, Bernard Morgan, on the front page, and God bless him, and thank you for your service, sir. All British Second World War heroes will be able to honour fallen comrades at future VE Day events. Of course, that is May the 8th, so that's coming up soon. But, there are just very, very few left now. That's the reality. It's a nice gesture, and, of course, nobody would gainsay it. But how many, what are they looking? Travel, bed and board? They can probably all get them into a single gîte, I'm afraid. Now, time rolls on. I can remember the last World War I veteran dying very near me, and I could pretty much see his rest home in Hove, and now here we are, 20 years. But it has emphasised, for those of us of my generation anyway, just how much it was a single conflict, essentially, with a long interval.
Yeah.
It's a nice story to have as a front page, but different, isn't it? And I suppose it's partly the Express congratulating themselves because it's their campaign. But these guys of this kind of age range, they're not going to do Zoom. Yeah. They're not even going to work it out. I think it's the least we can do is send them there.
That is
OK, well, moving back to the modern era now. We've got the sun now, and if you want a fancy new car, have you considered leeching off society?
Yes, extraordinary. And there's a particular detail about this. This is the PIP Motability scandal, which, of course, has been rumbling for some time. But I'll give you the headline in The Sun. Taxpayers funded my £21,000 car, says Chelsea Leland, which sounds more like a car than the car she's got. It only cost me £1,000, and I'm trolled by jealous working people, but it's not my problem. Chelsea Leland, her comments just read as if she is a deliberate provocation. She seems so oblivious to the degree to which people might resent this. She's a single mother. She has 3 children, the middle one of which is a boy, is autistic, and off the back of that, she's been told that she is entitled to this car. And they have a few other figures which are just intended to get your blood pressure up. 35% of claims were accepted for bedwetting, 66% for agoraphobia, which incidentally doesn't mean technically fear of the outdoors, it means fear of the market, which does seem quite appropriate, doesn't it, in this case? But the thing that really killed me, £21,000, her car is called a Renault Kadjar. It's literally called a Kadjar. It's literally, they spell it Kadjar in order to conceal it, but it is basically French for sponge. It's an extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. This has got to come to an end. It's costing us billions, and As I say, I think in a country where everyone can see that everyone is struggling at the moment, the degree to which people are gaming this system, nobody minds if you get a little bit of help to cope with an autistic son, of course, you know.
When you need it. But I mean, the amount that people are making, so she says she's making, like, it's getting on for like £40,000.
Yeah,
and that's
37k annual income with no work.
No tax.
She gave up work. She says, I mean, to be fair to her, she is extraordinarily candid. She said she had a job. She's a hairdresser. She got a diploma. And she had a job, but when she realised that after childcare and benefits that she was losing, it was flat. She has no benefit at all to work.
We really need to change the system where it makes people are rewarded more if they work, because I mean to make that much money and obviously not have to pay tax and then
increasing her sense of entitlement, which becomes a culture across the whole, and everyone just thinks I'm a mug.
You're also right though to say she's not the best ambassador for the scheme, because she's going to be saying, why should I have to have an old banger? And it's not the best approach. But we are looking at 1 in 5 cars. 1 in 5 cars are now on the mobility scheme. I've got to say, though, the numbers here given by The Sun, they do not add up. They're saying 35% for bedwetting, 66% for agoraphobia, 51% for depression. Those figures do not make sense.
No, it's 35% of those who claim for bedwetting get a car. Not 35% of the claims.
Also, bedwetting. Do they have to prove the bedwetting? I mean, I can understand if you go to a doctor and say, I've got a problem wetting the bed, and they give you treatments for it and so on. But to say you need a new... Do you have to bring in wet sheets? What do you do before you get a car?
They have a bed, actually, at the doctor's. You have to climb in. The other thing is, like, some people have agoraphobia and bedwetting, because when you've wet yourself, you don't really want to go outside. It's cold. Anyway, we've got the Express now with police dealing with some non-Twitter related crime for a change, Kiri.
Dedicated police officers to tackle louts in every force in huge clampdown. I thought all police were supposed to be dedicated, but apparently not. The old joke is I call my erection constable because it's never there when I need it. It really is about going back to... It's once again, it's what we were talking about before, it's going back to Bobbies on the beat, which used to be a thing. And I think, once again, it's much more of a villagey thing, really. It's not something you really see much of in a city, because there wouldn't be enough Bobbies to be noticed anyway. What we want, and I think what the public want, if I'm right about this, is police who turn up.
Yeah.
You know, when you call a cop, what we want is efficiency rather than your local Bobby who knows your name and pops around and knows your family.
I don't know. I think I'm ready to see heavily armed special forces, to be honest, on the streets of most, medium to larger sized cities.
Some sort of Judge Dredd type system.
Absolutely. Instant gratification, I mean, it's interesting that this comes on the same day as they're reintroducing house calls from GPs as well. It's just la-la land, isn't it? They obviously haven't got enough money to do this properly. It's just a load of propaganda. It's absolute nonsense. And nobody's expecting to see... What we will possibly see is some more 5'2" tubby specimens walking around in sort of utility belts who can be just rolled over into the criminal wanting to make good his escape.
It was always a job for the tubby cop, wasn't it? It was that's the one you'd see hanging around. But we don't need directions anymore.
Well, we've got the final few front pages in a second, including the Metro, and we're going to have that story about the nurse who has been suspended for calling a male paedophile mister. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It's much drier across Spain and Portugal as we head into the new working week. There'll be plenty of sunny spells across much of the Med, but the risk of some showers at times too. Madeira's seeing some showers, but plenty of sunny spells too. Much of the dry weather across Spain and Portugal, though 1 or 2 showers are possible. Showers become more frequent from Italy, stretching across to Greece and Turkey. Temperatures a little on the disappointing side for the time of year, and it remains so for the next few days too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, we have high pressure dominating through the rest of today and into next week, bringing plenty of dry and sunny days, but some chilly nights. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we've got high pressure situated towards the northeast, still a bit of a squeeze in the isobars, but winds will be easing. So through the rest of this evening and overnight, for many of us, we hold on to plenty of clear skies. This will allow temperatures to quickly fall away We'll see some mist and fog patches in places, especially across Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland. The far north of Scotland holding on to cloudier skies across Orkney and Shetland, but lows reaching down to -3 or possibly -5 in places. So it's going to be a chilly start out there, especially across parts of Scotland with a touch of frost. Cloudy across northern parts, so across Orkney and Shetland. Across Northern Ireland, bright, but we will see some mist and fog patches first thing. They'll gradually lift and clear. And then for much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start Monday morning. And we hold on to that theme throughout much of Monday as well. Many places holding on to dry, sunny skies, still cloudy across Shetland and perhaps into Orkney later. But we'll see lighter winds as well, so they'll be easing, especially along the south coast. Otherwise, still going to be feeling warm in that sunshine, especially out towards the west. We've got highs of up to 16 or 17 degrees and perhaps just feeling a little bit more pleasant down that eastern coast. Through Tuesday, it's a very similar start, so plenty of bright skies out there, but perhaps a little bit chilly first thing. We'll also see some cloud just filtering in further across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps some fair weather cloud across East Anglia. And we'll see a bit more cloud on Wednesday as well for many of us before that clears. Otherwise, plenty of sunshine and turning warmer as we go Thursday and Friday.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's look at some more front pages with the Metro, Kiri.
Musk's Trump tariff revolt. And so I think this is the sort of Musk-Trump bromance is beginning to show signs of ending and breaking up. And really it's just Musk reacting to the tariffs because they're going to affect his making cars, selling cars and so on. He doesn't really want that. Wait till he sees Trump's outer space tariffs that are coming in. Yeah, I think so. I think Trump has been indicating he's slowly pushing Musk out now anyway. He's served his purpose. He's come in. He's done his thing. He probably doesn't really like him because he doesn't wear a suit.
He did give Trump a huge amount of money to help him win the election. It was something in the region of $300 million, Simon.
I'm not sure about that. I'm sure you're right, but I don't know too much about that. I mean, you're right. I think possibly the whole bromance thing has been over-egged entirely anyway, although they're both very odd people, and it is possible that they found a sort of strange love in isolation. But I think there's a limited role for Musk in the government. As you say, he was brought in to deliver Doge. That was going to be with Vivek Ramaswamy, who was dropped like a hot potato when he stood up for Indian immigrants in the tech sector. I mean, it remains Trump 2.0 is a vastly more efficient and impressive and absolutely. If you don't like what they're doing, then they're getting away with it at a far greater rate than they did.
My favourite type of politician is the one who can get anything done. Because then we can all just get on with our lives.
But the thing about Trump, he's smartened himself up and he's made things work more than the first time around. But he has not lost that ability to just lose people very quickly if they, and there's no. I doubt anyone will be recognisable by 2028. But whether he's still got the tech sector with him generally is perhaps a slightly larger question. Peter Thiel is a major player in the administration as well, and a big sort of, the guide and the philosopher and the friend to the whole exercise. I think Musk was possibly just speaking out loud when he said, I don't think he said these tariffs are a terrible idea, and I can't believe I got mixed up in this. I think he was just sort of saying, listen, I would love to see America and Europe have friction-free trading, but Europe has these enormous tariffs to begin with. I suspect that was what he was saying.
Right, yeah, well, moving on, we've got the front cover of the Daily Star, Simon. There's not much to say about it.
I love the way you cut me off from American tariffs to acknowledge the Daily Star scoop that Easter is going to be sunny. And Easter, I mean, it would be interesting. I hope Easter is sunny because we have been, of course, enjoying extraordinarily unseasonable weather lately. Yeah. I mean, in Hove, as I was saying, it felt less like a surprisingly warm April and more like I'd slipped into a coma and was being sort of fed some sort of simulation of, based on an idealised version of my childhood or something. I was like, this can't be. The last time it was this warm and sunny in spring was, of course, during lockdown.
Yeah.
So it's been quite nostalgic from that point of view.
Climate change is working. Well, let's try and squeeze this story in before we go. We've got the Telegraph, and the NHS has sided with a racist paedophile who called an African nurse the N-word just because she observed basic biology, Simon.
Yes, I mean, it's like a bingo card of all the things that would enrage us, isn't it, in the last minute? Nurse who called transgender paedophile Mr. is suspended after investigation. It's Mr. Transgender paedophile to you. Yeah, extraordinary. Jennifer Melly, and this has been going on for some time, and it looks as if the suspension may also be to do with something she did in terms of a data breach or something, but, I mean, it's just unbelievable that they would come out on the side of this transgender pervert.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was on Free Speech Nation a few weeks back, and I was watching the public reaction to her at the time, and the public loved her. And she's a really sweet lady, and she meant no harm at all. She had to put up with a great deal of abuse from this person. This person needed a catheter for a male person, so it was relevant to mention no matter where you stand on the whole issue. So, but really, we should be firing nurses and doctors who don't know the difference between a man and a woman.
Yeah. Well, because, I mean, doctors and nurses deal with biology. She was speaking to a doctor on the phone, so she said Mr., and, not just because the guy's obviously a bloke, but also because if the doctor's fitting a catheter, if he's going to bring the appropriate catheter, it needs to be for a mister.
Yeah. And to be fair, she has also said herself she was expressing her Christian beliefs and she does not acknowledge transgender ideology and terminology, and I totally respect that as well.
Absolutely. Good for her. Well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Telegraph leads with door-to-door NHS to tackle health crisis. The Independent has every 2 minutes a pregnant woman dies, yet Britain and the US are cutting millions from global aid. The Eye leads with Build British, Starmer to ease petrol car ban in race to shield UK from trade war. The Guardian has Labour will support key industries hit by tariffs. The Metro's front page has Musk's Trump tariff revolt. He wants no tariffs. And the Daily Star has Easter sunny. We've got nice weather. And that's it for today's show. Thank you to my guests, Kerry and Simon. Josh Howie will be here tomorrow night at 11 p.m. with Simon and Cressida Wetton. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast. And I hope to see you next Friday. OK, have a good week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, we have high pressure dominating through the rest of today and into next week, bringing plenty of dry and sunny days, but some chilly nights. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we've got high pressure situated towards the northeast, still a bit of a squeeze in the isobars, but winds will be easing. So through the rest of this evening and overnight, for many of us, we hold on to plenty of clear skies. This will allow temperatures to quickly fall away. We'll see some mist and fog patches in places, especially across Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland. The far north of Scotland holding on to cloudier skies across Orkney and Shetland, but lows reaching down to -3 or possibly -5 in places. So it's going to be a chilly start out there, especially across parts of Scotland with a touch of frost. Cloudy across northern parts, so across Orkney and Shetland. Across Northern Ireland, bright, but we will see some mist and fog patches first thing. They'll gradually lift and clear. And then for much of England and Wales, plenty of sunshine to start Monday morning. And we hold on to that theme throughout much of Monday as well. Many places holding on to dry, sunny skies, still cloudy across Shetland and perhaps into Orkney later, but we'll see lighter winds as well, so they'll be easing, especially along the south coast. Otherwise, still going to be feeling warm in that sunshine, especially out towards the west. We've got highs of up to 16 or 17 degrees and perhaps just feeling a little bit more pleasant down that eastern coast. Through Tuesday, it's a very similar start, so plenty of bright skies out there, but perhaps a little bit chilly first thing. We'll also see some cloud just filtering in further across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps some fair weather cloud across East Anglia. And we'll see a bit more cloud on Wednesday as well for many of us before that clears. Otherwise, plenty of sunshine and turning warmer as we go Thursday and Friday.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Howie. On the show tonight, growing support for the mother jailed for social media posts to be released. More female athletes have said enough is enough, and council staff are being told to take a white privilege test, which I failed. And Sir Sadiq Khan sparks outrage over his Eid message, and some comedians answering some crazy cultural developments from a live studio audience. But first, the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Josh. Very good evening to you. 7 o'clock. Aaron Armstrong here in the GB Newsroom. The Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, is facing criticism for saying she's not surprised 2 Labour MPs were denied entry to Israel. Abdesam Mohammed, who represents Sheffield Central on the left, and the MP for Early and Woodley, Yuan Yang, were deported after being accused of planning to spread anti-Israel hatred. Ms Badenoch says Israel has a right to control its borders, adding she thinks it's shocking Labour has MPs that other countries don't want to allow in. The Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, says her comments are disgraceful. The Lib Dem leader, Ed Davey, says she's shown unbelievably poor judgment. More than 50 countries have contacted the White House to start trade talks since Donald Trump announced his tariffs. That's according to Kevin Hassett, one of his top economic advisors. Well, he's denied the tariffs are part of a Trump strategy to crash financial markets to pressure the US Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. Indonesia and Taiwan, meanwhile, say they won't impose retaliatory tariffs on the US. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet the US President for trade talks tomorrow. Sir Keir Starmer has reiterated his disappointment over Trump's new tariffs in further calls with world leaders. He's expected to announce a series of pro-growth measures later this week, and his words were mirrored earlier by the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. A father and his 10-year-old daughter have been named as the two victims of a fire at a caravan site near Skegness. 48-year-old Lee Baker and his daughter Esme from the Nottingham area died when a fire broke out at Golden Beach Holiday Park in Inglemells in the early hours of Saturday morning. The family say they're utterly devastated. An investigation into the cause of the blaze is ongoing. Marine Le Pen, the French politician, has committed to keep fighting against her criminal conviction, which has barred her from standing for the presidency in 2027. The leader of the right-wing national rallies promised her supporters she'll appeal, and she's continued to blame the system, despite being found guilty of years of embezzlement. She was convicted last week of siphoning off EU funds to pay her party. Well, centre and left-wing groups have held counter-protests in support of the rule of law and also in support of judges who've been subjected to death threats. Since the decision, they now require police protection. Finally, the warm and dry weather is expected to continue across the country for the whole of next week after we enjoyed the hottest day of the year so far on Friday. And if you've been out and about, I challenge you to have done something more relaxing than this. This is from the Republic of Ireland, a flotilla of vintage barges, some of them over 100 years old, making their way from Vickerstown in County Laois to Waterford via Athy in County Kildare. It's organised by the Heritage Boats Association and takes place every 4 years. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across culture, current affairs and politics and do our best to make sense of where the world has become senseless. Coming up on the show tonight, there have been fresh calls this week for the release of Lucy Connolly, who was jailed for her comments after the Southport murders. A fresh trans row has engulfed US sport this week, this time after a female fencer refused to compete against a trans opponent. And Sir Sadiq Khan's Eid message has been labelled an outright disgrace. And of course, myself and my fantastic panel will be answering questions from our wonderful studio audience. My comedian guest